Hello, it's Lane again, and this week we're talking about dysphoria. This is a pretty big topic, so I'm gonna try to cover as much as I can in this video. I guess we should start with what is dysphoria. Dysphoria is an intense feeling of unease, dissociation, unhappiness, malcontent. Usually when people say dysphoria in the trans community, they're referring specifically to gender dysphoria, which is feelings of unease, dissatisfaction, etc. related to one's perceived gender presentation, secondary sex characteristics. People often classify dysphoria into social dysphoria and physical dysphoria. Social dysphoria meaning that you get very uncomfortable by the way people treat you in relation to gender. People calling you the wrong pronouns, referring to you with gendered language makes you uncomfortable. Interacting with people in a social role of the gender you don't identify as makes you uncomfortable, and that's social dysphoria. Physical dysphoria is gender dysphoria directed at your body that you experience even when you're out of a social situation. So if you had dysphoria around your chest, then you would still feel that unease even when you were alone. You might not feel comfortable looking at your chest or touching it or having other people touch it, kind of thing. A lot of people view social dysphoria and physical dysphoria as separate things. I personally view them as an extension of the same thing. Like, social dysphoria stems from not being that gender, and physical dysphoria also stems from not being that gender, and they're related things. If you have an identity as a man, it's completely normal that you would also want to follow the body standards that are directed at men. So, like, any cis man who had large breasts would also want to get them removed because they conform to the standards of appearance directed at men. And of course that would also, by extension, like, a cis man wouldn't want to be called a woman in public or, you know, be misperceived as a woman. And so trans people are exactly the same. A trans man identifies as a man, and so he wants to, like, follow the body standards directed at being a man. But some people don't. Like, some people identify as one thing and don't feel like they really have to conform to what media tells you should look at like for that gender, and that's completely valid too. So I guess I should talk about my experiences with dysphoria too. I have social and physical dysphoria. I'm assigned female at birth, so I'm very uncomfortable being referred to as anything to do with female. It's not really an issue in my life anymore because I've been on testosterone for over a year now, and I'm out as a gender at school, but most of the people at my school think of me as male, which is, like, I prefer it to female. I don't prefer it to agender, but I prefer it to female, so I don't really mind that people think of me as male. And I'm out to my family and my friends and, like, everyone, like, no one thinks of me as female. So the whole female thing isn't a big deal in my life at this point, but it definitely was before I came out and before I started transitioning. I didn't pass at all, and that was really frustrating for me. But now that I do pass as male most of the time, I found that I even get dysphoria around being perceived in a too masculine way, which I think is the difference between non-binary dysphoria and trans-masculine dysphoria, is that trans men experience dysphoria around being identified as female, and they want to be and be identified as a man, and that's comfortable for them. But for non-binary people, it's kind of like too far either way gets uncomfortable. So for me, I've been always very uncomfortable being identified as female, but I'm also not completely comfortable being identified as male either. And if I'm in a social role where I'm expected to act particularly masculine, that makes me very uncomfortable. So recently, I've been really pushing to, like, have people respect my neutral pronouns and have people respect me as being non-binary, neither male nor female, because that's really the only social role that I'm completely comfortable in, and that's the only social role in which I feel like I'm truly being myself. And because I go to such a small school, they've actually been very receptive to that. So a lot of kids at school call me they pronouns or he, and even if they do call me he and, like, refer to me as male things, like, they do it with an understanding that I'm not completely either, so I don't mind, you know, being referred to with male language as long as people aren't holding me to, like, the male standard of, like, hypermasculinity, because I'm obviously not a hypermasculine person. As far as physical dysphoria, I experience physical dysphoria around my chest and hips and some bottom dysphoria also. My dysphoria has gotten a lot better since I've been on testosterone because my face looks way more masculine now than it did. I know it still doesn't look hella masculine, but I mean, it's a large improvement if you had seen me before. And my voice is really deep now, which I love. I was really self-conscious about my voice before I started testosterone. The major thing that really still bugs me about my body is just the fact that I haven't gotten top surgery yet, and so I wear a binder every day. Or if I don't wear a binder, I just wear like baggy clothing and kind of like hunch my shoulders. So I'm really just looking forward to getting top surgery over the next year or so that I can, you know, go out in public and just not be anxious and constantly like adjusting my clothing and constantly worrying if there's like any like lumps showing or anything like that. I can't wait until I can just go out in the summertime and just put on a t-shirt and walk outside. That's like, I fantasize about just being able to fucking put on a shirt and walk outside. Or even not wear a shirt. Like, I just can't wait to be able to be topless. I'm actually on the wait list for top surgery through CAMH, but because the wait list is so long and the institution that's doing it is really shitty and understaffed, I don't have my first appointment until the summer or like possibly even the fall. There's a 18-month wait period after you get a referral, so that really sucks. What does gender dysphoria feel like? For me, gender dysphoria feels like a feeling of dissociation and non-attachment. Like, before I started testosterone, I had a really hard time looking in the mirror because I didn't feel like I looked like what I should look like. Like, I didn't feel any attachment to the way I looked or like any association with my appearance to like who I actually was. And I still get that feeling about parts of my body. Like, when it comes to my chest, I don't hate my chest. I'm not gonna like cut it off. I just feel like a real dissociation from it. Like, I feel like my real chest is kind of like there, and then I just have this like random body part over top of it that's like a growth that shouldn't be there. Like, I don't see my chest as like a valid part of my body. It's just kind of like something that's there that I'm dealing with, that I'm waiting to get rid of. Also, dysphoria a lot of the time feels like being trapped, and most of the time I just use like mindfulness exercises and don't really let myself get to the point of thinking that way. But if you do, it can be kind of dangerous, because if you start thinking too much about how dysphoric you are, then you start thinking that like it's not fair that you have this body or this condition, not condition, I mean like state of being, and you start thinking that like, why are these things here and why can't I just like remove them, and you start feeling really like anxious and trapped. So most of the time I just try not to go down that road, and I highly recommend people avoid going down that road if you're highly dysphoric. So how do people deal with gender dysphoria? Personally, I dealt with gender dysphoria by socially transitioning. I originally came out as transmasculine actually, and went by male pronouns and picked a male/neutral name. It really helped me with my dysphoria, just having people respect my pronouns at first and having people refer to me with my new name. I also got my name changed legally. I started hormone replacement therapy a year ago as of November 1st, and that has been the biggest thing in relieving my gender dysphoria, because even though it didn't change most aspects of my body that are covered by clothing, it changed my face and my voice and like even my throat, and just the way the world sees me. And so at this point I pass as male most of the time, but I still kind of pass as female if I'm wearing feminine clothing. I feel like I've really reached a point where people just perceive me as whatever I'm presenting and dressing as, which is what I wanted, because I have kind of a fluid gender identity a little bit, not like completely fluid, but I tend to stay around neutral and then like wiggle a little bit either way. But yeah, I mean, if you are highly dysphoric, you know, there is hope for you. I have come so far in being comfortable with my body and being comfortable with who I am and being comfortable with my role in life and my relationships with people. Like, really hormone therapy and like socially transitioning and legally transitioning. I haven't changed my legal sex, but I have changed my legal name. I'm not going to change my legal sex because I'm waiting for the X marker to be available. Also, as far as dealing with dysphoria, I've found that exposing yourself to images of trans people and like trans people's bodies, even if you have to look at like amateur porn blogs or like naked body positivity blogs and stuff like that, just exposing yourself to images of trans people and like letting yourself think that other trans people are attractive makes you really have less issues with your own body, because you start to realize that like you're different but you're still good. The cissexist media that we're exposed to is really damaging, especially to trans people, and it's really important for you to understand that your standards for beauty are based on the images that you're shown. So if you want to appreciate people who look like you more, then just seek out images and seek out media of people who look like you, and it really helps. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say on that topic. Peace out.